Cap, what is up?
Good morning.
All right, so full disclosure, last time we talked, I had promised that I was sending you, if I could find it here, this is on the way to the office. So full disclosure.
Love it. Checking the mail every day, John.
It is on the way. So, and there's also a bonus element in there as well. It's going to be one of those rectangular containers from the U.S. Postal Service. Should be there in the next little bit. I started the show this morning with the conversation about Troy Deeney. And he was hired in his first, he was a player coach for a club, the Forest Green Rovers, and they're in League Two right now in the fourth level of the pyramid in England. He got promoted he was a player coach. They sacked their manager. He got promoted. And his promotion to head coach lasted all of 6 games. And the reason that he got sacked was because he publicly blasted players. He got a 4-game ban for saying for language that was improper and or abusive and or insulting and or threatening. So it could have been 1, it could have been all 4. We don't know. But he decided publicly to say that he would rather watch Antiques Roadshow than his own side that he was managing. And he said that there were too many babies top to bottom. Inmates were running the jail. He's got players. He said, I told him everyone that the kid had a kick to go to the Prem. He won't get a game now in the National League. He gets run by. And literally, he just let him have it with any barrel known to mankind. Did you ever have a coach or a manager that was that abrupt in their assessments of you or your teammates? And how did you guys handle that kind of stuff?
Wow.
Was anybody ever that mad at any team that you were on?
I never had a coach, thankfully, like that I could compare to. That's crazy. I hadn't read those comments. I did see that he got fired pretty quickly, but I didn't know the reason why. That's something, blasting your own team. It's a way to go. One way to do things. I will say that not every good player makes a good coach.
Yeah.
Right? Just because you can play the game well does not mean that you know how to communicate it and teach others and can lead others in a way that they can have success and learn from you. And I think that was a little bit of like Jurgen Klinsmann. Like he was a phenomenal player, obviously. But he was a good leader in that, like, I think guys for the most part enjoyed him personally. And, he did a lot as far as like bringing stuff around the national team and different speakers and all this stuff. And he brought in some different ideas and all that. But when it came down to actually on the field, teaching and tactics, he struggled to get it from here to there. And for him, it was just all natural and instinctive. And, I couldn't understand why for everyone else it wasn't. So thankfully I wasn't ever coached by a Troy Deeney or anybody like him, but yeah, it doesn't always translate.
Well, and the reason that I bring it up is because with today's athlete that you and Greg are mentoring, I would think that there are some athletes that are, student athletes still, that they would sit there and look at that conversation. And if someone's going to turn the hairdryer on, they sit there and go, yeah, dude, whatever. And they'll brush it off. But then I would think that there are just as many who would sit there and really take it to heart too much. And in your mentoring, I didn't know if you had athletes that, when it comes to, I don't know, just general anger and displeasure and things like that, how they like to be treated. And I know that each mentee is different. I didn't know if they just get tired of people yelling at them and things like that and just want a straight message.
Yeah, I don't think that there's a particular way in general. I think that's part of being a good leader, is understanding the differences between what motivates each person, right? And you can't just call out everyone and do what Troy did and expect that it's going to resonate with everyone. It might resonate with a couple guys and a few guys, and that's how to motivate them. But yeah, in general, as a whole, everyone responds differently. And so, that's part of being a leader. And so that's why I didn't obviously work out there. No, I mean, I think that everyone responds differently. It's understanding what responds to you. How do you let the coach know? Or
I mean, can you go to your coach and sit there and go like, and I mean, you're not going to say dude, but no. Coach, I don't appreciate the way that you're giving the message. Can you do that without risking your place in a roster these days?
Probably not at a higher level. But I think that you can make it known when you are receiving the response and the motivation that you do enjoy, right? If you go out of your way to say, hey, that's awesome, that's great feedback, or that's really motivating, coach, or hey, or after the fact, like, hey, that really helped me, that type of thing, right? Not so much, hey, that doesn't work for me, but hey, this does work for me really well. Or hey, that did work for me. That leaves an impression as well.
And I would think that feedback is important between coach and player and mentor and mentee. When it comes to your mentees and them opening up to you, is there that initial stage of them still kind of shy because I'm talking to Michael Parkhurst here, and there's still the star factor? How do you break through that star factor and go, look, I'm just here to help you out? Take the Michael Parkhurst part out of it, and the fact that you might have seen me with Atlanta United or in my career or what have you. Take the Michael Parkhurst part out of it. I'm just a mentor. How hard is it to push through that initial activity?
Sometimes a little bit, but sometimes they know that we played, Greg and I, but they don't know much about it, so it's not a big deal at all.
What? They don't know Michael Parkhurst and Greg Garza?
Hey, it's all about who's playing now, the present, John. So no, but I think that's you try and be engaging, right, and get at their level for a little bit and crack a joke and talk about things outside of soccer for a little bit and just make it a human conversation first. I think that's important. But yeah, to answer Alex's question, I think that a captain can definitely help a coach with understanding how to get through to people if it's not working.
When you have other conversations outside of soccer, I mean, do you have intel going in about a particular mentee? Hey, they like this, and this, or is it just, asking the question, hey, what kind of music do you like? What kind of movies do you like? How do you break through the non-soccer conversations and get into those topics?
Yeah, talk about school, talk about things outside of soccer that they like to do, because that's one of the important things actually that we get to at some point, is what else besides soccer do you like? What else do you enjoy doing? Right? What do you do outside of soccer and outside of school? Because we really encourage our mentees to do things and find things that they enjoy doing, particularly these things that they enjoy doing are important when things aren't going well on the soccer field, right? Yeah. You get away from the game a little bit, you take your mind off of it, you go enjoy yourself doing something else. And then you go back to soccer, and hopefully you've forgotten about whatever's been bothering you, or you've got a renewed love for it or something like that. So really talking about just different activities and hobbies that they like.
So what was it for you, and what is it for you other than hitting the ball 280 down the middle off the tee? I mean, so when you were a mentee's age, what other stuff did you do to take your mind off of soccer when you had that 35 seconds when you weren't doing soccer?
Yeah, well, when I was some of their kids' age, I was playing other sports. I was, this time of year, I was playing basketball and doing things indoors, and I was playing indoor soccer as well, but was playing other sports for sure, where I know a lot of kids these days aren't. But outside of that, honestly, I struggled a little bit too, where I didn't play an instrument. I didn't and really enjoy reading back then. We didn't have video games at the house.
What? No video games at the house? No Mattel and television? No Odyssey 3?
We had a Game Boy for road trips.
Okay.
An old school Game Boy. But yeah, no video games.
Wow. I mean, I guess that was part of the encouragement to make sure that you were doing things that kept you active, I would guess, yeah?
I guess so, yeah.
No video games for you. Go outside and play or go inside and play.
Exactly.
When you were in high school, what classes did you like and what classes did you hate?
Yeah, and this is a big one that I talk to because a lot of the kids are around my kids' age. So I hear from my kids all the time. And so, there's a lot of things. These kids are going through the same thing. I asked a kid yesterday, 2 days ago, maybe, what was his favorite class? And he said, well, I really like science, but I don't really like the work, but I really like my seat and who I sit next to and who's in that class. That's just something that I completely see my son saying all the time. So it's just, like that fun connection of like, yeah, I get it, man. That's important. But anyways, getting back to classes, I think so much of school is dependent on your teacher.
Yeah.
I really did not like English class for a long time. And then I had a phenomenal teacher my junior year of high school. And I actually really liked English class that year. She really taught me how to write properly and do essays and things. And I found out I kind of enjoyed writing when she broke it down, and was really good to work with. And same thing with science. Like there's some years where I really didn't like science, especially as I got older. It was like the one class at Wake Forest where I struggled mightily was science. And I forget even what class it was. But I did have a teacher in, I think it was 9th grade, who was so awesome. He was just the best, most entertaining teacher, and he just made it fun. And so, I think so much of it is more on the teacher than it is actually the subject.
Yeah. I mean, I had physics when I was in high school, and I was like I was in the Brainiac clique in high school. And I was like the low end of the scale. I was the dumbest of the brains that was there. And so I would still take the advanced classes, but I'd be getting D's and F's, and not really care. And I swear to God, my physics teacher in high school, she taught Sir Isaac Newton herself. I will swear up and down that she taught Sir Isaac Newton. She was that old. And literally it was F's on the tests, A's in the lab, get the C and get the blank out of there. I mean, that was what it was for me in these classes. You mentioned English. Do you ever think of writing a book about your mentoring and tips and things?
I thought about writing a book after we won the championship, and when I look back, I'm like, I should have. I haven't thought about one about the mentoring actually, but perhaps because I did some writing for ESPN like early in my career. A long time ago, and I enjoy writing. So I'm not sure. To answer Abby's question, history was my major, and I guess I've never said that on here, but I don't really enjoy when people ask me what I majored in at Wake, because I say history, and I'm like, don't ask me anything about history. Don't ask me anything about history. After my sophomore season at Wake, I almost went pro, and then I decided I'd stay another year. And so I went to the guidance counselor and I said, okay, I'm going to leave a year from now, but I still want to graduate from Wake Forest. What do I need to major in? And she looked at me, she said, you've got one option, and it's history.
Oh, yeah?
And I was like, are you sure that's my only option? And some history I didn't mind, but we had a really nice teacher at Wake who loved the soccer team, and she didn't teach the most entertaining parts of history. So, but I took a few of her classes. So yeah, history anyways.
Well, and I mean, I get that completely. European history bored the ever-loving crap out of me. It's like, all right, here's Machiavelli. Read it. No. Here's European history. Take it. Okay, I know I have to. But I got a 3 on the AP in high school and clept out of it in college, and I was in great shape. I didn't have to touch history at all. To your point, I mean, folks are sitting there saying, write the book, man. They want you to write. They would listen to an audiobook. Dell says he would listen to a Michael Parkhurst audiobook when it comes to whatever you want to talk about. I honestly, with anniversaries and things, just write the Atlanta United book, man.
I know. I've thought about it. Dell, I would include one whole chapter for Rhode Island FC just for you.
See?
And I had thought about of like, going back and like talking to guys about different things they remember and experiences and that type of thing. But maybe someday.
Okay, we'll get into Rhode Island FC because there are things to talk about there as well. Apparently, Brad says he's at camp this morning, telling reporters had no intentions of retiring. Welcomes the competition at the keeper position in 2024. I think if Brad has his way, obviously he's going to consult with his family every single year. But Brad, the polar bear, is going to compete until he's 117 years old if he has the chance to.
Totally. And I don't blame him. He had a guaranteed contract for this year, so it'll be interesting after this year because I think that his contract is up.
Yeah, he's in the option. I think.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what happens after this year, but I fully expect them to be back this year as well. Guaranteed contract and keep playing, and absolutely.
All right, so let's drift into the Rhode Island FC portion of the program because, sir. As our resident mogul in training, and we get to ask you these questions. Oh, you're gonna put the gear on? Up. Okay. Yes. Thank you for doing that. Well, you didn't have to mute. You didn't have to mute. We know what you were doing. I appreciate you being nice about it, but look, I've sneezed on the air. I
can't control that.
It's like, hey, whatever happens. But thank you for the courtesy while you're battling the cold temperatures. Is it snowing up there, by the way?
It is. First snow day from school today for the kids. I swear they manifested this thing last night. They came home from school yesterday, and the first thing we're going to have a snow day tomorrow. I'm like, what? We're going to get like an inch, guys. Stop. They're like, I'm not doing my homework. We're going to have a snow day tomorrow. I'm sure of it. I'm like, guys, stop. Sure enough, 6:15 got the text from school. No school today.
In my day, we walked uphill in the snow both ways to get to school, and you kids are sitting there and wishing it over after dinner last night.
Unbelievable.
You look on the 280 character app, and there is a signing by Rhode Island FC that is some heavy duty stuff, man. How did you and your organization get Albert Diqua to be a part of the growth of the franchise? That's a good haul, man. Nicely done.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a big signing. Big signing. And Kano liked Albert. I mean, before he blew up, we tried to, we knew he was out of contract. We tried to sign him midway through the year last year. To be our first signing, and Kano has a good relationship with Albert, and so they know each other, and Kano knows his agent as well. So there's good relationships there, and we really tried to get him early on, and then every week we see him scoring more goals, and we're like, oh God, no. We see the price tag just going up and up and up and up. But he was up front and saying that he wanted to try and go to Europe. So, I think he spent the offseason trying to see if that would work. And we had kept tabs on him and kept conversations going. And like last week, things came together quick. Like last week, it was like, okay, we're re-engaging with USL teams. And at that point, he had a couple offers from a couple different teams. And, we were able to come together. And to be honest, we didn't have the highest total number, but we put together a really good package for him, and I think that he was sold on what we're doing up there and his relationship with Kano and the relationships with the agents. So, the whole team did a really good job of going out there and making sure that we got him, because he was our target for a really long time, and just glad that we were able to get him.
When you're piecing something together like this, you mentioned all of the other elements that are attached to it, because you can sit there and say, we can't meet your price point, but how creative did the front office have to be in sitting there and saying, okay, well, we can go here when it comes to financials, but then we can sit there and go intangible, and then other things? How creative a deal was this?
Yeah, you try and find ways, right, of what can we do without really breaking the bank. And we know
name a suite after you at the stadium when it's built.
Right. And we know that, hey, if you want to go after the MVP, you got to be prepared to pay. Right. He's not going to come cheap. So it's not like we got him on a steal, right? We give him a very good contract. But he's deserving of it as well, right? If I was the MVP, I'd be trying to get every cent that I could and everything. So, I think that we tried to get creative with, okay, what can some sponsors help out with? What can we do as far as length of contract and guaranteed years? Where can we help him out with an apartment? What can we do off the field to help out? We include some other things that can help him. And I don't know if these are public or not. If I can say it. Yeah, I think we'll help him as far as life after soccer in the U.S. if he wants to stay.
Well, we could do this. we give you the breaking news sounder if you want to do that kind of stuff.
We'll help him in the green card process. And we've got very good connections within Rhode Island that we felt like we can give him a real. We'll get it done. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't know how creative you have to be in a situation like this. Obviously, the contract, my guess is you're giving him outs for, if a club in Europe comes knocking on the door, if you meet our transfer fee, these kinds of things, but we'll do you a solid, these kinds of those. I would anticipate that this is all over the place this sounds like about as three-dimensional a contract as you have to put together if you're bringing in somebody like Albert Dequa.
For sure. Yep. And there's a release clause in there as well in case somebody comes knocking. And we probably didn't even need to put it in there. It's more for his well-being in the mind, because we want to be a club that if teams come knocking and it's a better opportunity for them, that we, for the most part, obviously we have to look out for ourselves and do things responsibly, but we want our players to use us as a stepping stone to get somewhere else. And that's that for a lot of people within the organization, Kano included, right? We don't want this to be Kano's only step as a head coach. Like, we want him to do bigger and better things sometime in the future. That's not to say we hope that happens in the next year or two. But we want players and people with those aspirations, because that's what's going to push us in the near term.
How much of your time as a player are you using as a reference point now as an executive about how to handle situations, how to handle athletes, how to make sure that they're taken care of? How much empirical evidence are you pulling from your career to move forward as a part of the put things together at Rhode Island?
Yeah, I think that's where I bring some value. Helping out in that regard of what's important to players, what are they going through, right? And even in this process of going to a new organization and a new team, things to think about. And but we put together a really, really good staff, and we paid good money for a good staff because we knew that was so important, especially in this first year or two where there's a lot in flux, right? We're at a temporary training ground with a temporary stadium, and just even this week we had planned to train indoors at the Bryant University indoor facility, but we didn't get the time that we thought we would, and it was like, okay, how do we pivot here? They were able to get an indoor facility not too far away for the guys to train at, so it's like little things like that just pop up and are important. And you want the guys to feel like, hey, this is not amateur, right? This is professional. That's not to mean there aren't going to be a couple S shows throughout the way, but the amount that we can eliminate those is important.
There's nothing. Yeah, you know that the you're going to have your ish shows. Those will happen and growing. But you know what? This is your book. If you want to do the audio book on Atlanta United, if you want to do a book on Atlanta United, that'd be fantastic. And I know with anniversaries and 0 years and roundups, that folks would love to see the stories. And I know that folks would love to get you and Greg's advice on mentoring and have that in book form or whatever form. The building of a franchise, do the first year of Rhode Island FC, put that together in a book and have it ready for the beginning of next season so folks can know all the behind-the-scenes stuff that may or may not have been shown in video form on all of your social media platforms. Do the full book about year one of building a franchise.
Yeah, people wouldn't believe some of this stuff.
And that's why I'm saying what you do is you piece this together, and people would sit there and go, really? And you go, yeah, this is what we've had to go through to make sure that all of this came to pass.
Yeah, I think I have to wait another year or two, make sure this stadium gets built and built on time and done properly and all that.
Well, then there's nothing wrong with starting to write it now.
That's true. That's true.
And I would buy that book because I'm fascinated by growth. I'm fascinated by how things start. And like I said, with what's going on with Rhode Island, and now that I think about it, the fact that you and Greg have started something that is taking off to where it is. I mean, when you guys had your first conversations, I'm sure that world domination was a part of the discussion of when it came to mentoring. But does it even surprise you at times how you guys have been able to grow incrementally and have the successes that you guys have had in the year plus that you've been at this?
Yes and no. I mean, I think that we still have conversations about growth, and I actually have got 2 meetings back to back here starting at 10 with Beyond Goals about growth and how do we grow it and plans and stuff, because I think that that there's a lot of room for growth, not just for Greg and I, but just within the sport and within the country, and all these academies that are out there, and getting other former players involved. And there's opportunity out there. And I think that there's a desire from guys that pass on knowledge and be part of the organizations, in just a small way. So we'll see.
Okay. Well,
but as far as, I think somebody asked something about like Atlanta's, going through that and then building Rhode Island. And one of the things I learned for sure in Rhode Island from Atlanta was you have to have an exciting team from the get-go.
Yeah.
Right. That 2017 team was so exciting on the field, right? We could score at any moment. Yeah. Like we win the ball 30 yards from our own goal, and Tito's got a little bit of space, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, smokes, something might happen here. Right. And that excitement is so important for the fan base. It's so important for the crowd, for them to be into it and to feel like, oh shoot, we might score goals. We might score a goal right here. And that all the time. So, that was definitely part of why we thought, okay, let's go out and get Dequa, because we've got JJ Williams as well. And, he's a proven goal scorer in the league. But now that we've got both of them, we feel really comfortable about our ability to score some goals.
You got JJ at power forward and Dequa at your shooting guard position. So now Michael Valverde says you're Ryan Reynolds. Welcome to the Frosty North. Since you've got that 10 o'clock, thanks for hopping on a couple minutes early. We will let you go. What's the latest going on? You guys just rolling on and kicking butt?
That's it. Greg's super busy doing some work with MLS right now, and some diversity and inclusion conversations here leading up to the season. So he's busy with that. And so, yeah, we're keeping the show running, getting kids prepared for high school season coming up. We're speaking to some schools as seasons kick off. So it's always good this time of year to get those conversations in and get them prepared.
At MF Parkhurst at BG Mentoring, go to your 10 o'clock.
Have a good weekend, guys.